Hey guys, welcome back to the Elevator Life. It's just me today. Nick is up in Shanghai at a wine show. He's the lucky one this time, but I did just get back from vacation and I made him stay here for that. So partnerships are all about a little bit of give and take. But we still got a good episode coming at you today. We're excited about it. Monsoon season here in China is just wild. If you haven't been a part of a monsoon season, I do not recommend it. Every single day, thunderstorms, especially in a place like China where the drain systems just are not up to par. But anyways, we're all cozy up in here in our apartment and we're ready to talk some business. First thing that I do, also, I am on the bulletproof coffee kick right now and it is fantastic. I do recommend it. I feel great. I have to say though, when I first heard about putting butter in coffee, I was a little turned off. I didn't really know what that was about, but it's working well. Today I want to start talking about Bitcoin. If you don't know what Bitcoin is about, I suggest you Google it. It's a decentralized currency that makes it easy for you to move money around and not be, traced. I mean, that's only one use for it, but it is very useful for us here in China because it can be very difficult to move RMB outside of China. If you're getting paid here in China, if you're moving a lot of money around, Bitcoin is very useful to move currency outside of China, in and out of China. I also recommend it for anyone that is another international entrepreneur because it helps with the whole moving of currencies around. So if you haven't looked into Bitcoin, recommend it. As of last week, it made big news because its market cap hit $1 billion, which is really, really unbelievable for the first decentralized currency. I don't think it's the first, but the concept that is interesting to take a look at with Bitcoin is, I don't know if Bitcoin is going to be the last one or the one that's going to be here to stay, but I do think it's an interesting concept, and I think that this concept or a decentralized currency will possibly be one of the currencies of the future. Like I said, whether it's Bitcoin or not, I'm not sure, but that remains to be seen. It's also funny to look up and hear economists talk about it because a lot of them are baffled. You know, when a currency kind of comes out, a new currency gets launched, it's usually pegged to another value or pegged to another currency like the US dollar to actually give it some worth. Well, this one wasn't. So it's a really interesting concept. I do remember the first time I looked into it, I was like, what? I really didn't understand it, but it's definitely something to take a look at. A few days ago, Joel Runyon tweeted at us, Elevator Life, what do you guys think is the #1 opportunity in China? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I tweeted right back at him and go, the internet, hands down. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today, guys. The internet, entrepreneurship, aspects, avenues that you can take in China. Why is it so exciting? And it's gonna be good. Internet entrepreneurship, obviously all over the globe with your digital nomads, your internet marketers, app developers have exploded to an unprecedented level. Obviously, it's created way more entrepreneurs than we've ever seen, ever. It's allowed people to work way beyond boundaries. People all over Southeast Asia, all over Europe, everywhere are in the internet entrepreneurship scene. However, China's different. Not a lot of these entrepreneurs have cracked China or cracked internet entrepreneurship here in China. Not a lot of people have tried because there's many barriers to entry. First of those being the culture. The culture is 180% different than how we think in the Western world. So a lot of the concepts and a lot of the models that we use just simply will not work here as they are working in other countries. Second, and obvious huge barrier is the language barrier. Unlike, say, a country like Spain or any Spanish-speaking countries that are maybe a little easier to understand, easier to translate, the cultures are a little closer to similar to ours. Those areas are the next logical step to go for, other than a place like China. China's going to be one of those last frontiers where the barriers to entry seem so high that we're not even going to attempt it. Third, huge barriers to government. Government is a big obstacle in China. First off thing, if you're going to have even a legal website here in China, it's got to be hosted here on a Chinese server. What does that mean? It's not too difficult to understand if you can talk to someone about it, but when I say legal website, I mean they won't block it if it's on a Chinese web server. If you can obviously be accessed, I can access websites outside of China right now, even though I'm in China, if the government hasn't blocked it. But if they blocked it, that means it's coming from an IP server outside of China. If they don't want to hear it, they can just say no. So obviously, if you're building a business, an online business here in China, you gotta have it hosted here in China. Okay, how do we get past those barriers, and why is it so exciting? Well, obviously it's a super exciting market. There's the sheer amount of people that are using the internet here in China is mind-boggling. The sheer amount of money and people that are going to be spending money on the internet is mind-boggling here in China. And a third avenue that I want to talk about today is the amount of foreigners here in China. With the booming economy, how it is right now, there's a lot of people like me, there's a lot of Fortune 500 companies that are setting up offices here, and that means there's a lot more foreigners that are setting themselves up here and people that are traveling here to do business. I think a huge avenue for internet entrepreneurs looking to get into China is developing websites, products, apps that are aimed at making life easier for expats. Some place that's interesting that is already happening is Shanghai. Shanghai has a lot of apps that make life easier for expats there, that help them, social networking sites among foreigners, apps that make it easier for them to get around, for them to take taxis. That stuff is doing very well, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how it spreads to other provinces, other cities like Guangzhou and Shenzhen throughout China over the next few years. Okay? When I start out, I want to talk about, there's 3 giants here in China. Do you know what those 3 giants, when I'm talking about the internet, there are 3 internet giants here in China. Number 1 is obvious, Alibaba. Alibaba is the platform you go to if you want to find factories here, if you want anything made. Everyone knows Alibaba. It's like, oh yeah, of course. Alibaba did 1.1 trillion RMBs worth of sales last year. So yeah, giant I guess would be a little bit of an understatement. That is 170 billion US dollars that they move through their platform. That is how much money is flowing out to China right now. That's in the manufacturing sector. The other one is Taobao. Taobao is a beast. The equivalent, they are the Amazon equivalent here in China. You can buy everything, anything and everything on that platform. They do have English sides to it, so you can feel free to go check that out. Really, really interesting. We broke our lights a few days ago, photography lights. And we just hopped on Taobao, ordered them, they were delivered the next day to our door. It's fantastic. The third and final one, which I don't know if everyone really knows about, is Tencent. Tencent is the social media marketing giant here in China. I'm not talking Weibo, that's Sina. They would be the 4th one, but Tencent operates QQ. QQ is the messaging system for all Chinese here in China. When I got here 3 years ago, QQ was how every single person talked. Emailed, talked, played games on the internet, everything. They dominated. Now they've come out with a new app called WeChat, also called Weixin in Chinese. If you don't know WeChat, check it out. WeChat, download it from the App Store. It's a WhatsApp, but way better. I think it's way more fantastic. It's got a better user interface. And if you don't know it, I use it personally to talk to my family back home. It's obviously got the voice messaging system, picture messaging, live video chats. It's fantastic. And if you don't use it, please do. The emoticons that they have on their networks make it fully worth it. But yeah, so that's Tencent, and they are the 3rd giant here in China. So now let's talk about internet entrepreneurs trying to get into China. Well, there's 2 reasons why a lot of companies fail, and I want to go into the Groupon story. So when I was thinking about doing a post about this, I sat down with one of my good buddies, and he was an early manager in Groupon here in China, down in Guangzhou. And Groupon came in as this massively successful internet company. Foreign internet startup, right? It was huge everywhere. Every country went in and did fantastic. Well, why not? Why would China be any different? So they came in here full force, brute force, set up offices all over the place. But what they did was all the upper management that they brought in were foreigners, because foreigners understood the business concept, okay? And so they were supposed to run all these offices really successfully, just like they did, say, from South America, okay? So, say the guy that was running the Guangzhou office, he was from Brazil. He had successfully run the Brazilian office. He was over here in China to do the same thing. Well, they ran into huge amount of hiccups. Okay, for a lot of reasons. The Chinese culture is so different than any other culture that it wasn't easy for managers to understand and to successfully run and, I would say, pivot the business of Groupon to fit nicely in the Chinese market and be successful here. Because even if they were running successfully, say, in a Spanish-speaking country, China is so different in the way they think in their education system that it wasn't working. There obviously the language barriers between them and the Chinese-speaking staff was difficult, okay? So that's one way to come in, foreigners, understanding the business model, trying to implement it just strictly onto the Chinese consumers. The other problem is a Chinese businessman, a Chinese company the money's no problem to them. They see a business working, they see a website, a Reddit working perfectly in a foreign country, they implement that and copy it to the T. Chinese people are very good at emulating. Obviously, look at all the factories. They can make they can make copies of anything you want to the T. They're really good at it. But they were missing the understanding of why it was working, the business model. Why did it work? What was pushing the growth in the foreign country? Okay, they simply replicate it and try and make it work here. That leads them into hiccups. Okay, because they don't fully understand the business model. So, how can we successfully run entrepreneur startups here in China? You got to have a mixed team. When you're looking at, if you're going to have a foreign manager, it's important to work with a foreigner that does understand the Chinese culture. He's maybe lived here. Okay, you got to be working with people that understand the Chinese consumer, how they work, why they buy things, what's going on, and can fluently, or not like fluently on a language basis, but congruently work with Chinese people. It's not easy. It's not easy to just come here and work with Chinese employees because they think in a completely different way. And so it leads to a lot of friction in foreigners that just come over here first off and then put in managerial positions. So if you're asking me how to get into the internet market here in China, it's to work with foreigners that understand the Chinese consumers and Chinese employees, okay, and then to work with a huge, really knowledgeable Chinese team that understand how selling in China works, how the Chinese consumer works. If you have a team like that, you can successfully pivot a business to work here in China. For example, what we're doing with our wine education system, wine education platform in China, we'll find that what we think would be a good episode and how we want to tailor the direction of the platform, we'll throw it out to our Chinese staff and we'll throw it out to our Chinese friends, and they'll come back and be like, some of them, no, you're completely wrong, this is what you got to do. I had no idea. You know, for some episodes we're doing, like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense, we'll change it. That wouldn't work in a foreign country, but it works in China. So you got to have a Chinese staff and Chinese feedback that can help you pivot your business here in China. And then you'll have a shot at hitting the market, guys. It's a really exciting place to be, the internet in China. Just want to get it summed up here. There's huge barriers to entry, but in my personal opinion, the benefits that can come out of and the sheer amount of people that are using the internet here in China make it totally worth going after. And I look forward to, in the next few years, seeing a lot of internet entrepreneurs trying to break into the scene here in China, take advantage of the amount of money that's going to be spent online here in China, membership sites, creating apps, developing social media networking for foreigners here in China is a huge platform that needs to be taken advantage of and needs to be worked on by the most talented people, and a lot of those guys aren't working here in China. And so when you ask me what is the biggest opportunity right now in Zhongguo, China, I think that's it, the internet. Who's going to take advantage of it? How's it going to change in the next few years? Those are going to be the people that are going to be exciting to watch. Before we get off, I want to throw at you a few websites that you can check out. Hold on here a second. I have them written down. Okay, thenextweb.com. They do a good job of covering, I will link it below the video, but they do a good job of covering what's happening all over the web, and especially China. They do highlight Chinese startups that are making waves. Another one would be 36kr.com. That is a Chinese website that follows startups, follows entrepreneurship. Well, we just had some thunder. It's in Chinese, but if you have a Chrome browser, you can easily translate that, no problem. So check those out. Another guy to keep on your radar is Michael Michelini. He runs socialagent.me. It's a social media website for foreign companies that are looking to increase their social media presence here in China. He understands the mix of Chinese employees, Chinese developers, and foreign aptitude of the business model, and he is just getting started. Take a look at him, socialagent.me. He's on the forefront of breaking through the internet entrepreneurship barriers here in China. So he's exciting to watch. But yeah, guys, keep your eye on it. Social media, apps, all that's going to be developing here in China. Very exciting. Have a good week. I do have a cool episode coming at you on Thursday, which will give you another look into another entrepreneur here in China. All right, guys, as always, keep it real. Talk to you soon.